I like to dedicate this to all of the Creator's righteous children. I have some food in my bag for you. Not that edible food, that food you eat? No. I have some food for thought. Since knowledge is infinite, it has infinitely fell on me.
Peace and blessings. Welcome back to my channel, YouTube. Today, on another episode of my series, Afro-Indigenous, I'm going to be talking about the basketball player Kyrie Irving and how on August 23rd, 2018, on his mom's side, he is Lakota Native American, and he is Standing Rock of the Standing Rock tribe that was going through all of that madness with the Dakota Access Pipeline a few years ago. So that's the same tribe that he is. And so on the 23rd, he went to Standing Rock and they honored him and his sister with Lakota names, and he was accepted into the tribe. And I think that was a beautiful thing. If you don't know who Kyrie Irving is, he's a basketball player, black basketball player, and his mom was Native American. And the story goes that Kyrie Irving's mom was adopted out of the tribe when she was a very little girl and passed away when Kyrie Irving was very little. So I guess after, she had his sister. So he didn't really get to know his mom fully, but he always knew he had this family in the Standing Rock tribe. He was Lakota, he was black, he knew his heritage, but he didn't fully understand it. And he didn't know the history of his tribe. He didn't really know the history of Native Americans, except for the history we all know about us. We know that history, you don't need to go into it. But basically, he didn't know the specific history of Lakota and what they dealt with when it came to colonization and everything, and the treaties and everything like that. But he was very vocal back in 2016 when the Dakota Access Pipeline fight was popping off in Standing Rock. He was very, very vocal about his support for the Standing Rock tribe and for the No Dabble movement and everything like that. And that was really beautiful. He might have donated some money, I can't remember. But he's just an awesome guy. And he actually made some shoes, because he has shoes out right now. And he put out some shoes that actually have the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, their logo, their emblem. Basically, they have these kind of things like this, and has an emblem of the Standing Rock Sioux's, kind of emblem. And he made some shoes like that, and I thought that was really beautiful, a really amazing merging of Indigenous and African American lineages. And I just thought that was beautiful. And I thought it was also really beautiful that in the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, the Lakota, Nakota, Dakota tribe was able to, and had it in their heart to, accept Kyrie Irving and his sister into the tribe and give them tribal names and have them meet their family, because Kyrie was talking about basically how he had never met his mom's side of the family. And that was the first time. And the only reason that he's able to, because a lot of Indigenous people who are African American as well, aren't always able to go back to the tribe that their mother or father was of, because they're African American. And, the only lineage that a lot of us have is that we are these things, but we don't normally have papers sometimes, or we just aren't accepted back into the tribe the way we wish we could be. And because of Kyrie Irving's grandmother on his mom's side, who had papers and was still an enrolled member of the Standing Rock tribe until she passed away, that was how he was able to come back and be a part of the tribe and learn more about his family and meet his family. And that was really a beautiful thing. And I think that's so awesome. And I wish other tribes would be able to do that with other black people who are also of Indigenous ancestry, or one parent is Indigenous and one parent is black. They really need to be more accepting of letting us come back and claim our lineage of whatever tribe it is that we are. Like a lot of us back in the day, we really didn't have the papers to say, okay, we are this tribe. And like I said in my last video, a lot of us, we had to go under false pretenses into this system where we had to, if we were dark enough, we had to claim blackness, even if we were more indigenous than black. You know what I mean? Or if we were just indigenous in general and we were just dark skinned, we would have to claim black instead of indigenous just because of the fear of persecution. Because for Native Americans, and especially dark-skinned Native Americans, being indigenous was way worse than being even black, being even African American. And so for a lot of our ancestors, even up until my grandmother's generation, it was super hard to be indigenous and to be African American at the same time. And so it's just really beautiful to see that the merging of two cultures was able to come together in a beautiful way, in a beautiful light. And I'm just really, really happy that the Standing Rock tribe was so welcoming of Kyrie Irving, because they're not all tribes are very welcoming of African Americans who have indigenous ancestry or a parent who is indigenous. They're not always that accepting, and I really am glad that that was not his story, you know what I mean? And I really hope that in the future, it'll be able to not have to be our stories anymore. We will be able to coexist in both our blackness and our indigenousness together in one beautiful package that we are. We are black and we are indigenous. And I think it's beautiful, and I think it needs to be celebrated more. And so today I wanted to not only bring you the story of Kyrie Irving, which I thought was such a beautiful thing, I also want to talk about some indigenous artists, but also some indigenous and black artists who really are out here making moves, but also people of the past who were indigenous and never really got to be a part of their culture because it wasn't accepted. So we're going to check out some artists out here making moves in the indigenous space, and also some artists who are black and indigenous and really making an impact on the world. So my first artist I want to talk about is Frank Juan. Frank Juan is a Lakota artist. He is from the Rosebud Reservation, and he's killing it out here in these streets, honestly. He does indigenous hip hop. And through his messages that he puts out in his songs, you can just feel it. He talks about everything and then some. Tall, dark, and handsome. He talks about everything that's going on in the indigenous world, on the reservations, in North America, but it can also pretty much relate to all indigenous people all over the world. You know what I mean? Like, we've all been in this colonized world forever, and so we're able to all, as indigenous people, relate to what he's talking about. Because we've all been marginalized, we've all been put into these cages, we've all been put into these small spaces where our hearts cannot breathe. And he talks about that a lot on a lot of his songs. He actually had a EP or an LP out last year called The Bridge. You need to go check it out. It's on Spotify, it's on everywhere, and you need to go check it out. My favorite songs on there are 7, What Makes the Red Man Red, and Treaties. Those were 3 songs that he actually released prior to or before he put out The Bridge. And those songs, and Good Way, that's also a bop. Hashtag Indigenous Bops. But that was a really big bop for me. So when 7 came out, so a lot of these songs came out prior to the album, and they came out on SoundCloud. So go follow me on SoundCloud. But for me, when I first heard 7, the Lakota have this prophecy where they talk about the 7 generations, the next 7 generations, right? And it said that Sitting Bull actually had this prophecy where he saw the next 7 generations being, so 7 generations after his, and then the next 7 generations after ours, being the warriors who are going to take back this land and really become the warriors and start the revolution, right? So he talks about the 7 generations. And when this song came out, it was during the time of Standing Rock. So I was already very emotional. I was very hooked up into the Standing Rock, whole thing, and I was really into it. And I got to go to Standing Rock that year, which was awesome. And I'll actually do a separate video soon about my experience at Standing Rock. But basically, that was really powerful when he came out, right? I think it was either before I went to Standing Rock or after I went to Standing Rock. Either way, though, it was super powerful because I had just come back or just was about to go. And listen to 7, because listen to 7. Just really listen to it. It starts off with a poem by an Indigenous woman poet, and then it just goes into his lyrics and his rhyming. By the end of the song, he is literally on the song crying, and I'm in tears. I'm in literal tears. It is so moving. Please go check it out. But yeah, go check out Frank Juan. He has other songs too that I love, like Oil for Blood, and Aboriginal, and a lot of other songs. So please go check out Frank Juan. He's an incredible Indigenous artist from the Rosebud Reservation, Lakota. He's incredible. The next artist I want to talk about is Xiuhtezcatl Martinez. Xiuhtezcatl Martinez is a Indigenous young climate justice warrior. You've probably seen him a lot around the Earth Guardians, and he's suing the Trump administration with 21 other youth for their lack of care and leaving us a plan for the climate, you know what I mean? And he's really doing big, incredible things when it comes to the climate justice world. But he's also a Indigenous hip-hop artist, and he just came out with a EP a few weeks ago, and he put out an EP, and it's incredible, and it's called Broken, and I think it's like 5 songs. It's so incredible. Favorite songs on that are Magic, Broken, Limits. And then he also had released music prior, before he put out the EP. And he put out songs like Younger featuring Nako Bear and Shailene Woodley. He put out a song called One Day. He put out a song called Blue Ink. He put out a song, I think that was it. But he put out just incredible music, right? And it's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful to see how the young people, are really taking back this world and making it their own, and talking about the issues that they're going through and dealing with it in a very tangible way, in a way that they're like, we don't need you adults, okay? Y'all screwed us over time and time again. You don't care about the earth. You don't care about us as youth. You don't care about our futures. And so we're going to take the future into our own hand. And I love that. I love that so much. You know, I always say the youth are the truth and the youth are the future, because they honestly are. They are speaking truth to power, and they are the future, and we need to be listening to them more, because this is going to be their generation's future, and they are taking in control of it right now, and we should be helping them. We shouldn't let our youth have such a crummy future. And you know, as the generation right now, we're gonna have kids one day, or we already do, and we need to help them so they can have a better future as well. So that's basically what Broken, the EP, is about. You know, he is Indigenous Mexican, Azteca, and he is incredible. They also had put out Xiuhtezcatl and his brother had put out an album with the Earth Guardians a few years ago, and that was also an incredible bop. You should go listen to that. Favorite song on there is, of course, Indigenous Roots. But it's just like he's putting out this incredible hip-hop music to get into the ears of mainstream kids, to really make them see that we are the future, and that the choices that we're making today are going to affect our future in major ways tomorrow. And so we really need to be thinking about our future in a more today type way than just our future's going to come later. And I just think that's a beautiful sentiment. I love everything he's talking about in his songs. In Broken, one of my favorite lyrics is basically talking about why he's an activist today. You know, he's like, he talks about how there are people out there who are doing nothing, and how they can do nothing right now and then have kids and be like, I didn't do anything back then and now your future sucks. And I'm the same way. I can't just sit here idly by and watch my kids' futures go to nothing. You know what I mean? I have to be fighting now, today, for my kids' futures, for the next generation's futures. I have to fight for it today. And I just think that's a beautiful sentiment. That's exactly how I feel. And I just think he's an incredible person. He has long hair, which is totally like right on. I appreciate that. And it's beautiful to see him just really out here making moves and in the right direction. So go check out Broken by Shutescott Martinez, and it's incredible. You'll love it. Another artist I want to talk about is Maimouna Youssef, aka Mumu Fresh. Maimouna Youssef she's basically like an older sister to me. Her mom and my mom are like spirit sisters, and her grandmother had adopted my mom when I was very little, and basically she had spiritually adopted my mom into their family, and ever since her mom had passed away, her grandmother had passed away, her name was Mountain Eagle Woman, and we used to call her Mommy. She passed away in the early 2000s, and when she passed away, it was really hard on her daughter and her grandchildren. So before she had passed away, she had asked my mom to look after that family, and they have become very close to our family. And so my mom's spiritual sister, the daughter of Mountain Eagle Woman, she has a daughter, and her name is Maimouna Youssef, and she puts out the incredible music that she does, being a Black and Indigenous woman. All of her music encompasses that, being Black and Indigenous at the same time. So she does hip hop, she's an MC, but she also has a voice on her. And she gets it honestly from her mom and her grandmother. They were both incredible singers back in the day, and they gave her that gift, and she uplifts people with that all the time. One really amazing example of that is Maimouna. She put out a album last year with DJ Dummy, who tours with J. Cole. She put out an album with him. It's called The Vintage Babies. Go check it out. It's on Spotify and everywhere else. But basically she put out a song on that album. It's called Say My Name. And it's basically a tribute to Sandra Bland, but also other slain African American and Indigenous and just people who have dealt with police brutality and just keeping their memories alive. And so she put out the album, she put out the song, and then she did a Tiny Desk performance on NPR of that song. So time goes by, like a week or something, and a couple weeks or something, and she puts it out. She puts out the Tiny Desk, and guess who calls her? Sandra Bland's mom. She calls Mumu Fresh, Maimouna, and she says, I need to speak to Maimouna. And she's like, that's me. And she's like, I was trying to get through the 3rd year anniversary of my daughter's death. I saw your Tiny Desk. I had me in tears, and I had to call you. Good tears, of course, but I had to call you. And she was like, okay. And she was like, your song moved me, and I need you to come down, and we're going to have this group called the Mothers of the Movement, which are basically all the mothers of the kids who were killed in police brutality. And we're going to have them down here, and we're going to have you come and sing, and it's just going to be this, like, impromptu, like, just get together and heal. And she was like, I'm there. And I just think that's the most beautiful thing, when your music really is there to serve other people. That's like the definition of your music serving other people, and you actually having an impact on people's lives. And I think that's just incredibly beautiful. And, you know, Maimouna has been singing her whole life, and she's been on tour with Erykah Badu, The Roots, Common, you know, so many artists, and she's met so many different artists, and so many artists are really hip to her game. And she, you know, on her Tiny Desk, she had Black Thought on there, and that's really beautiful. And, you know, Black Thought is actually the reason why she has the moniker Mumu Fresh, which is her, you know, MC name. And that's just really beautiful. It's just a really beautiful experience. And I just think it's really beautiful that in every aspect of her music, every aspect of her lifestyle, she really embodies that Black and Indigenous way of life. With her tiny desk, she opened up with a Lakota prayer and went straight into a hip hop song. It was so awesome. Like, that's just how Black and Indigenous people do it. And I think that's beautiful. And I think that's warms my heart and just makes me so happy. So you need to go check out Maimouna Youssef, aka Mumu Fresh. Check her out. She's on Spotify, she's on SoundCloud, she's on everywhere. Please go check her out, buy her music, support her. She's a underground indie artist who is doing her own thing and will light up your room. And she's from Bmore. She's awesome. And yeah, support her. So much love, Maimouna, much love. Another artist I want to talk about is older artists who are Black and Indigenous, but people might not know. Artists like Michael Jackson and the Jacksons, they are Black and Indigenous. And it's really beautiful, and a lot of people don't know that, but they are. And that might be one of the reasons why Michael Jackson, besides just being an awesome person, was so into the care of the land, the care of the earth, and caring about what's going on with humanity, because that's something that not only is an Indigenous principle, but it's just something that was ingrained in us from, our ancestors. And so for us, it's like second nature to care about the earth, to care about the land, to care about humanity and what's going on in society. And that's what Michael did, and I just appreciate that so much about him. But another artist I want to talk about that is Black and Cherokee is Jimi Hendrix, one of my favorite artists of all time, and a rock legend. I mean, hello. But he was Black and Cherokee, and he actually wrote a song about being Cherokee back then that wasn't really a mainstream hit, but it was released, and it was really beautiful. It never got to be finished. He had a grandmother, I can't remember if it was on his mom or dad's side, but he had a grandmother who was Cherokee, full blood, and he used to hang out in the summertime with her, and he learned a lot about being Indigenous, and he really supported a lot of Indigenous causes. He got to visit a lot of Indigenous people, and it was really beautiful just to see Jimi Hendrix really opening up about that, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people just saw him as this Black guy who, was Black, but he was also Indigenous, and I think that's beautiful, and I think that's heartwarming and amazing. I want to talk about a guy named Selfie. So Selfie is a Detroit artist, and he is white and Indigenous, and on his mom's side, he is Indigenous, and on his dad's side, he's white. And he grew up in what you would call the projects, the hood, whatever, of Detroit. And he's an incredible artist. He's a hip-hop artist, and he's incredible. He talks about everything. He talks about growing up in the hood. He talks about being Indigenous in the hood. He talks about, not growing up on a reservation, but still feeling that really deep connection to your Indigenous roots. And I think that's beautiful because not every Indigenous person grew up on a reservation. And I learned from a statistic that I saw on Instagram or somewhere else that at least 72% of Indigenous youth and people today actually don't live on reservations. They live in the suburbs or they live in the cities. And I think that it's becoming more and more of a thing for Indigenous people all over the world to not really live in those confined spaces that the settlers put you in, and you're living in different areas, which is cool because people like Selfie, people like myself, people like Maimouna Youssef, we didn't grow up on reservations, but we're still having a very profound and very unique connection to our Indigenous heritage. And he's Ojibwe. He's amazing. And you should go check out his music. It's incredible. His album is called the Ogichida Project. And it's just really, really, really moving. He talks about the Flint water crisis on there and stuff going on in Detroit with water. He talks about being Indigenous and living in two different worlds. He talks about a lot of different things and just uprising and revolution and just so many incredible things. And I just really appreciate his musical style I got to see him perform live back when I was in Standing Rock, and that was really awesome. So you should go check out his music. It's on Spotify, it's on SoundCloud, it's everywhere, and it's incredible. So go check it out. Indie artist support, you know. So yeah, I just wanted to come on here and give you guys a taste of some Indigenous music, talk about Kyrie Irving and the greatness that the Standing Rock tribe was so willing to let him and his sister come and explore their Indigenous heritage that they didn't get to explore growing up due to their mom passing away when they were very little. But they're finally getting a chance to go and explore their heritage. And I think that's really, really beautiful, because not all Black and Indigenous people are able to do that in this country and in other countries as well. So I think that's really beautiful. And I just hope that in the future, more tribes are more willing to let Indigenous Black people come and explore their heritage, their community, and who they are. Because we are Indigenous too. We might be Black. I'm as Black as my afro on my head, but I'm Indigenous as well. Native pride. It's important to me. And I every day embrace that side of myself as well as my Blackness. But I have to be together with it, because I can't be separate. I just can't. I have to be Black, I have to be Indigenous, but I have to be together with those things. And they can't be on one side or the other. So I just hope one day people are more open with that. More tribes are able to let us come and explore our heritage in a very beautiful way. There's actually a documentary that I found on YouTube. It's a little old, but it basically talks about these same things. I think it's called Black and Native or Black and Indigenous, one of those. I'll link it. But basically, it talks about these same exact issues of people either just finding out about their Indigenous heritage and not really knowing that their grandmother, grandfather, or whoever was Indigenous, or Black people who are connected to their culture but maybe moved away and aren't having the easiest of time dealing with being Black and Indigenous in certain spaces. So that's beautiful. Before I go, I actually want to talk about another artist that I forgot. Princess Nokia. Princess Nokia, she is a hip-hop artist who loves emo music. I love it. But basically, she's a hip-hop artist she's from Puerto Rico, and she is Arawak, and she is also Taino, and she totally embraces her Blackness and her nativeness. There's this interview that I'll also link below, that she talks about her Blackness being in her nativeness and how those two things have to be super intertwined or there's nothing.
I just so happened to grow up with a woman and a family that really, really preserved that and was involved in cultural groups and did the powwow scene and did the native dance competition scene. And I used to go to cultural groups where we'd learn about Taino traditions every weekend and learn language and do arretos, which is our form of powwow. And I went to ceremony. I used to be 5 years old, smoke a cigar with the elders. And that's not a common upbringing for most Puerto Rican people in New York. That just happened to be very specific for me, and it's something very special because it is the native part of our culture that has been taken or neglected from all our families, which is very sad. We're all Native American people in Puerto Rico, but we don't acknowledge that. We say we Taino. Some people would be like, yeah, I'm Taino, I'm not Black. I'm like, you're bugging. And I grew up with Native people, and I grew up with a myriad of Native people. And yeah, that was just I don't think about it. People be like, oh, why are you so spiritual, so native, giving native? It's I don't know. When I did Young Girls Guys, I didn't make it a thing. I'm going to give you, I want to do this Taino thing. It was really no, I'm going to just wear my nagua. And, my friend wanted me to wear her traditional Zulu neck piece. I'm not Zulu, I'm Yoruba. However, it's important for me to incorporate Blackness in my nativeness, or nativeness in my Blackness. So it's I always like to keep that fluidity open. a lot of people look down on me for it because people have qualms within themselves with race. The Native people think I'm too black. Black people think I'm too Native. I don't care. For me, it's like, this is just who I am. This is how I wasn't, it's not like this is how I was raised. I was like, cultural preservation is a big part of like our life. And I was raised like super on a whole spectrum of being Native and stuff. So that normalcy of just like the Indigenous woman that lives inside of me. And like, I know that's special. I know that's dead in our culture. So yeah, I wanted to put that in a song. Yes, I wanted to retell that narrative because then it dies.
You know, she has to incorporate blackness in her nativeness and nativeness in her blackness, or what is the point, right? And she really is open, because not a lot of Puerto Rican people are, but a lot of Princess Nokia's songs and just her interviews and stuff, she talks about being very open with her blackness and incorporating that into the nativeness of her Arawak and her Taino. And I think that's beautiful. She has a song called Brujas that you guys need to go check out. It's basically a ode to her Orisha. She totally embraces her West African roots and how those West African roots came together with her Arawak and Taino roots. And she embraces those two things so well in such a beautiful blend that it just inspires me so much. You know what I mean? And I just love that. So, yes, you guys should go check her out. She is incredible. Her music is really good. She's from New York, and she's just really spiritual, really beautiful, and she's so herself, and I just love it. So, she's out there, she's fun, she's free, she's a woman, and I love it. So, go check her out as well. But yeah, I just wanted to come on here, give you guys some artists to listen to, talk about Kyrie Irving, and just spread this knowledge of Black and Nativeness, because not a lot of people know about Black and Native people and who we are, how we live, and what we do, and our life. And, you know, I just think it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and I need more people to embrace their Black and Nativeness, because it's important. Not one side of you is bigger than the other, and vice versa. And I just think that those two mergings of two beautiful worlds, two beautiful cultures, need to come together more often. Because in the end, we have one common enemy. And the more that we come together as a people, the better we are as a people. So, yeah. I hope you all having a beautiful, beautiful day. Till next time. Peace and blessings.